All right. Good morning. Good morning. This is Steve Weber. I am the host of the American Gumption Morning Show, being brought to you here on Spirituality Gone Wild, and also on the American Gumption YouTube channel and the American Gumption Facebook page. So please hit the like buttons on those so that you know every day when I come on. My schedule is Monday through Friday, and I go live at 10 a.m. Eastern or 7 a.m. Pacific. So here we go, day number or show number 14. And gosh, it's already coming to the end of the third week of broadcasting. And gosh, it's coming to the end of the third week of August here. One more week and we're going to be, finishing out this month. Where's summer gone? And wanted to mention that this is my first year that I've been back on the East Coast for the whole summer in Pennsylvania, and had to get used to the humidity. It's kind of hot and humid and sticky. I lived in the West for 38 years or so. I was in California for 27 and then Montana for 11 years. And I liked summer because nice and warm in the daytime and nice and cool in the evening, and not a whole lot of humidity, just on occasional days. But back here in the East, it's humid. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning that is that it is a gorgeous day here in Pennsylvania, in Eastern Pennsylvania, blue, clear sky, and going to be about 80 degrees. It was a little cool this morning in the 60s. And so just a perfect day, low humidity. So beautiful day here in Eastern Pennsylvania as we get to the end of summer. All righty. So today we've got a very good, exciting show. We have a guest, Tammy Joy Lane. Tammy Joy Lane is our guest. Let's see, we'll throw this up here. There she is. And Tammy is a friend and someone I've known for at least about 5 years now. And so she has graciously decided to come join us. So she'll be joining us in probably about 20 minutes or so. Let's see, what else are we going to do? I'm going to talk a little bit about my monologue is going to be on the adrenaline rush. We'll talk a little bit about adrenaline, and I'm going to tie that into a movie life lesson. It's the best scene number 26, according to Steve Weber, when last year he did the 94 top scenes and 94 top life lessons from the movie Forrest Gump. So we'll be showing another movie life lesson segment coming up here in just a few minutes. So want to mention a couple of notes about upcoming shows. Tomorrow we are going to have Bettina Carey join us, and she is going to share with us all about the We Empower You virtual summit that's coming up on September the 9th. And so, and Bettina and I we share a coach. And so this coach has been someone who's been working with both of us the last several years. That's how I got to know Bettina. And Bettina and I have had like a kind of a flip-flop 2 years where she worked on one aspect of her life, and then and I was working on a different aspect of my life. And then the very next year, we flip-flopped, and she did the exact same thing that I had done the year before, and then I did the same thing that she did the year before. So we're about roughly the same age, and so it's I'm excited to share with you what Bettina's up to. So that's going to be tomorrow morning, and then I have a couple more announcements on Monday and Tuesday. I have guests already lined up. Earl Peters is going to talk about Lolita, and Lolita is an orca. Otherwise known as a killer whale, but they're technically not really whales. They're actually part of the largest porpoise or dolphin family sea creature. So anyway, Lolita got captured 50 years ago, a few weeks ago, and taken to the Miami Zoo. And there's just like there was that movement, the Free Willy, the killer whale down at the San Diego Zoo. Lolita has spent the last 50 years of her 57-year life in Miami. So Earl is going to tell us about that whole story. That's going to be on Monday. The only caveat that I have on that is that we tried to do this a week ago and we ran into technical difficulty. So he's going to be in Vancouver. He lives up in British Columbia, and he's going to be in Vancouver, and we're going to hope the internet connection works on Monday to make that happen. So that's planned for Monday. And then on Tuesday, we're going to go across the pond and we're going to meet Nikki Roscoe. And so I'll tell you more about Nikki tomorrow and Monday, what's coming up. But so we're lining up these shows. It's funny. Week one, I had 4 guests. Tuesday through Friday, and I purposely did Monday as my first show as a solo show, and then the second week I ended up with 3 guests. I didn't have any real momentum after week 1 because I put all my energy in the week 1, and so anyway, then but now we're getting the guests lined up, and so I think we're going to have a guest almost every day going forward. That'll be the goal, is to have a guest every day. So we'll see how it goes, but looking good. We lined up a couple guests now. I've been threatening, or I've been telling you that I was doing that behind the scenes, and now I can actually start to deliver on that. So that is coming up. All right, now it is Throwback Thursday, so let's go ahead and take a peek back in time. All right, here we are, Throwback Thursday, and we're going to go back in time. We're going to go back to, this is November around Thanksgiving of either 1997 or 1998. And I apologize for not being 100% sure of the date, but it was either 97 or 98. And the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company had opened up. I joined them in 1996, and that first restaurant opened, and then the next year the second restaurant opened, and then the next year after that it was the third. So anyway, I believe it was 98, but it could have been 97. So now I'm over in the Hawaii Islands, and they're opening in Maui. Well, I ended up having a few days off, so I thought, why not head over to Honolulu, Waikiki, and there I am taking a little boat ride out in the islands. And lo and behold, there was a big wave came in and carried Forrest Gump to shore. Kind of silly that he had this box of chocolates and suitcase with him in the Hawaiian canoe, but hey, that's the way it goes. And then here's just a picture of Forrest Gump wearing a Hawaiian hat, and he's got a paddle there, and one of the young boys from the islands. And last picture is a lot of the Aloha spirit that shows. I visited a company, and the whole team came out and took a picture with Forrest Gump, and there's a wood carving statue, tall and behind us. So anyway, that's our Throwback Thursday segment, and that was we're going to call it 1998, when the first time Steve and Forrest went to Hawaii and to the gathering place Oahu. All righty, back here again live, a little bit of hesitation on my side. So hoping everything's sounding good out on in the world of the internet here. So anyway, so that was, hopefully you like that Throwback Thursday. I enjoyed seeing those pictures. I ended up going to Hawaii 12 years in a row from like probably 98 till 2010. And man, that was great. I ended up, there was 3 Bubba Gumps on the 3 different islands, and I would go from island to island to island and visit the resorts and promote the restaurant with our sales manager there, the local sales manager. And while it was warm, it was always fun. And I loved the aloha spirit. So look forward to taking my next trip back to the island sometime, hopefully not too soon or not too long when travel and we can go back to a normal way of life. All righty. So I mentioned the tech challenge, and I'm not finding it, so I'm just going to go ahead and announce it. But the screen, I've been doing a tech challenge with Tamara Fleming, the meaning of space love club, all week long. And so yesterday, so we've been cleaning up our desktop, our computer desktop. And the first day we cleaned off the front surface of it, the desktop, get things off into the document section and clean out the download section, get things organized. So then day 2 was really about setting up folders and structures. Day 3 yesterday was all about having structures that actually mean something to us. And for me, and for most of us, it's pretty important that we have our phones and our iPads or our notebooks and our laptops and our desktop computer all somehow syncing together, and a system that works similar on all of them. So you don't have to say, think about, I'm using this one, so now I need to do it this way. Or I'm using this device and I store things here on this device and I store things on a different device. So yesterday, Tamara, gave us strategies on how to, think about, they all communicate with each other, but if you have the same systems on each one and you put things in the same place, it makes it a heck of a lot easier. And technology is a great tool, but if it's a tool that we have to think about how to use it each and every time we use it, then it becomes not very efficient. If you look at a construction site, a carpenter has his tool belt attached, and he knows when to pull out the hammer or the screwdriver or the pry bar or the pliers, and he has all those tools available. And so technology should operate in a similar way, where we use these things when we need them, but when we don't need them, we put them back in our tool belt and just let them there. But that tool belt needs to be arranged and organized in the same way. So that was yesterday's message. That's not easier, or that is easier said than done. It takes actually, a bit of effort in thinking about what system do you want to have and use that will be across your thing. So while we're in this 5-day tech challenge, the reality of is having this system could take months to really develop and to fine tune. And then, of course, once it develops and gets fine tuned, then you want to maintain it and use it and keep it up to date. So that's the strategy for that. So that was the tech challenge update. All righty. So now what I want to do is I do see our guest has arrived in the green room. I hope she's being taken care of by the people tending to the green room and offering her some kind of a refreshment to get her ready to go. So she looks like she's singing back there, loosening up, even though I didn't know she was a singer. So we'll welcome Tabby shortly. All righty. So today's monologue, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to hope that the technology works well. Let's just see what happens. So this is life lesson number 26 from the 94 best scenes from the movie Forrest Gump. And this is when Forrest and Bubba are in Vietnam, and they have the fighter jets coming, and it's like they don't have a lot of extra time to get stuff done. And let's see if that screen is playing here. I'm waiting. We may end up not being able to do this with it, but let's see what happens. Here we go. It's rendering. I'm hoping it's going to play. I'm still waiting. So far, it looks like it's supposed to go, but the sound is not. Here we go. Hi, I'm Steve Weber, and I specifically included this scene for one reason. When I sat on the bench for 15 years, I would often ask people what was their favorite scene. Young boys would always tell me this scene was their favorite. Boys like loud noises and big bangs. Here is scene number 26. As humans, we respond to pressure. When we have an urgent deadline, we're able to get what needs doing done. Afterwards, we look back and say, that was a close call. Of course, our close calls are rarely a matter of life and death. Forrest wasn't taking no for an answer. He returned to the jungle 5 times to find his friend. He got himself and Bubba out in the nick of time. That was a close call. It takes gumption to stay committed when things get scary. Rarely in our own lives are things a matter of life and death. All the more reason we should stay committed like Forrest was committed. Do you want to be more Gump-like? Stick with your plan, even when things get scary and you feel like you're in danger. Rarely are things a matter of life and death. Let's learn to live our lives with gumption. All righty. So that was scene number 26 of the 94 best scenes from the movie Forrest Gump. And in case you don't know, last year was the 25th anniversary of the movie. So I did a countdown starting in March, the end of March, and up until July 6th. 2019, the 94 best scenes. That was scene number 26. And so, yeah, I sat on the bench and I talked and I would ask boys, little boys, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, maybe a little older than that because 6-year-olds probably didn't watch the movie, but 10-year-old boys, what was your favorite scene? And they'd always say, oh, the bombs. So anyway, that was it. Our guest has her own experience with some bombs. And so that was why when we talked, I said, I'm going to show you that scene because that's every guest that I have on the show has one scene that can relate to the movie Forrest Gump. That's how great that movie was. There's a life lesson in every minute of the movie, and everybody who has an experience, we can somehow relate it to the movie. That's why we all love that movie. All righty, so that was that's that. Let's see now. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about adrenaline. And when I started working as Forrest Gump, I had a lot of adrenaline that I used to use while I was out there performing. And, I would be, at the beginning, it was kind of pure adrenaline because you don't know what you're doing. You start a new job and and in my case, it was a very public job. I'm sitting there performing. And so, at the end of the day, you're really, really exhausted. As time went on, I had to learn how to regulate that. So I would bring it up and I would keep it at an even keel or a controlled pace. And I always wanted to have it elevated a bit because you didn't want to be out there trying to perform, in a lethargic state. So you had to show up and do it, but you didn't want to be performing at such an extreme level the whole time that you burned yourself out. And over, it probably took a year or two to get really good at being able to modulate that. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about how stress and adrenaline ends up wearing our body out. And he gives the example of in the wild, the deer is out there grazing and eating grass, and then all of a sudden the lion comes along and chases it, and the deer is like running for its life, and it is like filled with adrenaline. But what happens is, after it survives, assuming it survives, 15 minutes later, it's back to eating the grass and grazing, and it's back down to a nice, calm state. And in our own lives, if we compare that to humans, we end up getting adrenaline rushes from all kinds of things. If you're driving down the road, someone cuts you off and you have to quick make a maneuver, you get like an adrenaline rush, and then you kind of naturally calm down in a few minutes and you go back to that restive state. But what if you're working in an environment where you have a bunch of coworkers that you're not getting along with, or a boss that doesn't allow you to operate, or you don't allow yourself to operate in a nice, calm manner? Well, now you're raising that elevation of adrenaline, kind of at a high pitch, and you're keeping it there like all day long, for your 8-hour shift. Well, no wonder we're so tired when we get home, if that's the case. And so how do we learn? And some of these things are our own minds creating this adrenaline. So we have to learn how to modulate our minds and then of course our bodies, and keep ourselves at a calm pace as we go about it. So just like that deer that gets chased by the lion and has a bunch of adrenaline, well, that's a real danger. But is the dangers that we face in our life real, or are they imagined? And so a lot of them, I believe, are imagined, and we want to try to, and that's where consciousness comes in. We want to try to get a control of our thinking so that we're not at that elevated pace of energy and stress. And then, of course, that's what causes, disease and the body to break down when it lives at that. The body can handle a certain amount of stress. The body can live with a high spike of adrenaline, but not for, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month. That's what wears us down. So that's all the monologue I wanted to talk about. I thought it kind of tied in nicely with the Forrest carrying Bubba out of there in the nick of time, and bombs going off and a lot of adrenaline going to get him out of there. And then, and he got his friend out of there, and that was his goal. And so he performed at that high level, and we have the ability to perform at a high level when we, go into a stress mode. And when I would sit and work as Forrest Gump on the bench for 5 hours at a time, 3 days a week, I purposely would elevate my level of energy. But I also became conscious of not elevating it too much so that I burned myself out. And on the days that I wasn't working, I would make sure that I would take care of myself to not put myself into a high energy elevation, because I needed to, save that for the times that I was performing. So anyway, that's today's monologue. And now, with that, I have a guest in the green room, and she's a first-time guest, so we're going to play the first-time guest greeting song. But what I'm going to do first is bring her on the camera, and then I'm going to read a little introduction, and then we'll play the first-time the guest theme, and let her say hello to everybody. So, hello, Tammy. How are you doing this morning?
Good. How are you today? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm grateful that you're here. So I'm going to go ahead and so here I'll explain how this works. I'll read your little bio and introduction, and then I'm going to play the first time guest theme song. So I want you to make sure you understand that if you come back here a second time, you're never going to hear this first time guest theme song. So make sure you appreciate it for what it is. Don't get used to thinking, oh, every time I come on, he's going to introduce me with a marching band. All right. So we live in a high expectation world and a low appreciation world. High expectations and low appreciation. So Tammy Joy Lane puts the pre in appreciation, and is shifting our culture, our workplaces, and our homes. Tammy believes kindness in business is similar to the automotive industry putting engines in its vehicles. It's not just a top coat of paint, it's actually the core component that drives. So yeah, kindness is the engine. Kindness is the engine. I like that. Tammy Joy Lane is an Army veteran, a speaker, a coach, and a mother to two adorable young girls. Tammy is also a friend, a mentor, and a mentee. So, I became Tammy's mentor, and Tammy became my mentor. So, thank you, Tammy. Tammy, welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show here on Spirituality Gone Wild. So, if you'll just hold that thought, let me play the first time guest theme, and then we'll have plenty of time to talk. Oops, we're hesitating on our, let's try it one more time. Hesitating on our internet connection. Well, I don't know. Tammy, we may not be able to play your first time guest theme song. I can't believe it. Here it is. Why won't that play? Let's try it one more time. Don't understand why I pushed it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
We're still there. We are now. I think we're back live. I apologize that it's a little bit choppy on my end, so I'm not sure if it was playing and you were hearing it or if it was choppy, but it usually broadcasts out. Good. All right. So now I think we have all the technology out of our way where we're planning to play videos, which always cause trouble. So we're just going to have a conversation. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
My adrenaline just jumped up a little bit when I'm pushing the buttons and it's not responding to what I had hoped it would do. And so, yeah, that's the way it goes. We met 5 years ago. I was minding my own business in an airport, and I happened to know who your father was, and I see him sitting over there, and I was sitting with a friend, and I said, "Hey, we know that guy over there." And I said, "Well, who's that young lady sitting with him?" And so anyway, that's how when we first met, we were on our way to Washington, D.C. to the National Speakers Association conference.
Yeah. Wow. That was a long time ago.
So you said at that time, "I want to be a speaker." And we said, "Oh, well, what are you going to talk about?" And you said, "I want to talk about kindness." How did Yes to Kindness come about?
So actually at that conference, everyone was asking me what I spoke about, and I didn't have a clue, and nobody was saying kindness. So I'm just like, hey, I'll talk about that. Well, that's a hard topic. I should have chose something easier. It's fun though. It's fun.
And
so
you had to commit yourself. You had to commit yourself to being kind at that point. So it wasn't just a bumper sticker. It was actually a way of being.
Yes, I had no idea what I was getting into. I just thought it would be so fun to teach others how to do it, and I could just keep being a miserable, terrible person. But life's hit me in the face to realize, I think sometimes we teach what we need the most. So I needed that the most.
Yeah. You so you had a couple young girls at the time. They were probably about 2 and 4 or thereabouts. So you had your hands full. You're trying to decide professionally what you want to do. You had about 10 years earlier, or even less than 10 years earlier, you were still over in Iraq serving in our armed forces in the Army. And you came back from that whole experience, and just pick up the story as far as your transition from from Army life to civilian life, and how easy or difficult that was.
So I'm just realizing the military trains us to go to war, but they're not very good at teaching us how to come home. And so that's kind of our mission here at Yes to Kindness, is to bring soldiers home and help with that transition of, you have a mission and you have a plan and a schedule. And then once you get out, it's just, it's a hard transition. A lot of people struggle with. And I came home. I spent the next 9 years in and out of psych wards. And it was just right after a few years, or like a year and a half before we met, was the last time I tried to commit suicide and failed. And then I realized I needed to change. My 4th husband left me, and I realized I might be part of the problem. Before, I was just blaming everyone like it was my job. But Steve, quick update. I do have 3 kids. I have a step kid. I probably don't complain about her as much. So I got 3. But it's a big transition that a lot of people struggle with. And I think we're supposed to be strong. You've been to war. My husband, the 4th husband, came back, so he's still here. And he says to me, "You've been to war. Why do you worry about this little thing?" And war is easy. I mean, compared to coming home, compared to a lot of things. I mean, I had weapons, I had skills, I had a job, I had focus. And then coming home, it's kind of too much, too fast, I would say. And it's rough. So we of course they talk about PTSD, and we don't understand what that really means, because we had never been in a situation where we operated at a high adrenaline level for weeks on end, months on end, years on end. And that's what I think you're talking about when you say you're trained to go to war, but you're not trained to go home. So, they kind of, it's like one of those wind up toys. You just wind it up and wind it up and wind it up. But then, if it's just, you're told to go head back to normal life, what kind of resources is our military providing and helping? And of course, you're trying to fill in some of the gaps in that to work with people now. Yeah, and that's been a big part of it, is finding some way to help that fills me up too. So I basically had to learn how to get my own safety net before I needed it. Learning how to ask for help in an effective way, not waiting until I'm on the edge of a cliff to hope someone shows up. Realizing the signs where I'm like, I see I'm heading downhill fast. I mean, just last December, I checked myself into a psych ward, which is terrifying because I've been there and I know what it's like. But also I felt like it was a relapse, like I was failing because I couldn't keep it together, but it was really necessary. I knew if I went home to Utah for Thanksgiving. I knew if I came back, I wasn't going to make it. And so I just said, I'm staying here, and I checked myself in, and just being brave enough to say I'm not okay that's the message I want to share today, is because especially people who have been to war or have done something like that, or even people not in the military who have their own battles, you know, nowadays we have pre-PTSD where you can get PTSD before something because the news is so crazy. And so we never had that for sure. And just so many things going on. We all have to step back and do better. And I thought, how can I stop suicide? Well, I can stop it by one person at a time, myself, you know, and if everyone just focused on their self, then that would stop suicide, because you just have one person to worry about and one person to save. And I'm saying not don't help people, but realizing that you're all you have. You're the center of your universe. You got to stop going into debt for people who won't go into debt for themselves. You got to stop fighting for people who won't fight for themselves. And, you know, take a break and give yourself a break and realize you don't have to save the world. You just have to focus on being happy. And I think I'm feeling good, really, because if more people were happy and felt good, there would be less fighting, there would be less craziness, because we wouldn't be up in each other's business all the time. We would just be, I'm disengaging from this because it doesn't make me feel good.
Some of this is I'm learning because I got to know you, and it was in this world where we were going and developing a message. And then I was kind of in the same boat that you were, and I was trying to figure out my message. I had started a few years earlier, and so I was a little further along as far as what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't feel at that time that I had figured out my own message. And over that course of the next year, you developed the, yes, the kindness message. You developed the pre-appreciation idea, and I never actually spoke to you about your military career and the challenges. I knew that they existed, but we never actually, talked about some of the details of it. And so anyway, I just here we are 5 years down the road. We know each other fairly well. We've been cheerleading for each other, and yet some of these stories are hitting home in a way that they hadn't. So I appreciate your sharing this on American Gumption Morning Show, and just being authentic, because I think that's part of what it takes to heal fully and to take control of your life.
Yeah. Well, and I think repurposing, finding your purpose after you come home, if we could take a lesson from the military, laser focus. I had one job, I was trained for it, I was doing it, and I didn't have to worry about all the distractions. And I feel the power of focus is what I really learned from that. One thing I want to bring up that I just learned about, and I'm almost 40 and been literally in therapy for 20 years. It's called intermittent explosive disorder. Do we have an echo, or is it okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay. So, IEDs in war are called improvised explosive devices. Well, that's what we deal with there. And even today, I can't drive over something in the road. I'll be swerving because you don't ever know if it's going to blow up. Well, this explosive disorder is, I Googled it, so I'm just going to read it because it's a good definition. So intermittent explosive disorder is an impulse control disorder characterized by sudden episodes of unwarranted anger. The disorder is typified by hostility, impulsivity, and recurrent aggressive outbursts. And so it says people would explode into rage despite lack of apparent provocation. And so I'm so excited to talk about this and learn about it, because other people will be describing situations, and I'm like, oh gosh, I do that. Like my kids will drop like a pillowcase on the floor, and it will be like rage, and it's just not necessary. And there's hope, there's help for it, is the thing that I want to talk about. Is you don't have to live like this, and your family doesn't have to live like this. And and God bless the families. You know, I was married to a soldier, and so I've been in both seats, and the families have it way worse than the soldiers. I'm just saying. So maybe we could do push-ups for the freaking wives and kids of the soldiers who have to, like, I want to say deal. I don't know if that's the right word, but just deal with the aftermath of someone who has this explosive disorder. And I mean, just imagine living in a house where you never know if something's going to blow up. Well, that's how we lived, and that's how we continue to live, a lot of us. I'm not saying everyone, but the more people I get real with and the more people I talk to, the more common I'm finding that it is.
When we spoke earlier this week, you mentioned that you get used to really big bangs, and of course I played the Forrest Gump scene with the the explosions, and boys like that, and so you're a woman in what had been a man's world, but now you're are integrated men and women in the armed services. You're actually out there on the front line getting those huge adrenaline rushes, and you had to come back and live a life where there isn't those huge adrenaline rushes, but they had become part of your DNA, part of your body. Your body craved that in some way. And so, you create your own explosions to fulfill that net need. Do you want to talk a little more about that? I mean, that's really what you're saying.
Yeah. So it was interesting. When I got home, I was creating all this drama. Well, at the time, I didn't realize I was creating it, but I was craving adrenaline, and doing laundry wasn't doing it for me. The repetitiveness of cooking, cleaning up after people is just so, there's no adrenaline provoking activities in motherhood. And so I would just create this other drama and do unhealthy things. And it was just a bad downward spiral. And so if anyone's watching this or knows any soldiers struggling, help them find a way to get the adrenaline in a healthy, non-destructive way. And I mean, life can be so good. It doesn't have to be laying in bed wishing you were dead. I mean, I would have days where people would die and I would be jealous. I'm like, that guy died from a bee sting. Are you kidding me? I've been trying to take myself out for 9 years. I would literally be pissed. And now to where I wake up, and I mean, I live on a freaking island in Washington. My kids are starting to like me after all this time. Like, it's starting to be a good life, and it can be different. You can change. You don't have to live in this disaster in your head. And the way to get out, I think you got to start from the outside to realize how important the inside is, because it's hard to love yourself when you're acting like a D-bag. What's the appropriate term? If you're being you can't just go from I just did this to I love myself. So the more you look outwards and the more you help others and look for the good in others, then you can start to find it in yourself. So it's kind of a catch-22. Take care of yourself, but you got to believe you're take careable. So it's a process.
One of the first things you said when we came on was that you chose the topic because it's what you needed to learn for yourself. And there's some truth that I want to share. I want to go ahead and share a couple of screen shots from your website. So let me throw those up on the screen here. There we go. So this is your homepage, and the quote says, kindness is only relevant if there is a giver holding no strings and a gracious receiver. We must be both. So we must be both a giver holding no strings and a gracious receiver. Do you want to tell us what you're thinking with that.
Yeah. So the crazy part of Yes to Kindness, it was never about kindness. It was not about being kind or doing kindness. The yes to kindness was actually saying yes when kindness was offered. So too often someone tries to help us and they get bit at. For example, I was laying in bed. I wanted to watch the sunsets or the sunrises, but it was too early. And I laid there and I thought, you'd get up for anyone else but yourself. And so I got up because I'm tired of doing for others what I won't do for myself. And as I was walking along the waterways, there was a seal that was basically choking to death in a racing marker. And so it swam over to me and I approached to help it and it barked at me. And I'm like, that is exactly what we do to each other. We are choking to death and someone shows up to help us and we bite them in the face. And so I had to back away. And what I did, I just held the ball. I held space basically and let him figure it out because he kept trying to swim away and the floaty ball would go with him. But once I held on to that, he figured it out. And so what we don't need to come at people in their face and say, you need to do this, you need to do this. We just need to hold the space for them to realize that they can have a good life. And
yeah, ultimately it was the SEAL's job to figure it out, just like it's our jobs to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah. And if someone offers you kindness, just say yes, because, maybe you don't need a mint, but the person around the corner does. And you could be that. Sometimes we're just a conduit for stuff. And it's like keeping the flow of kindness going. If you imagine putting your hand up, no, I'm okay. And no one's that okay, really. No one's that okay. And you just don't know what people are packing behind their smile or their scowl, and an event happens and some people smile and act like everything's fine. And some people get scally. And so even the most scally of people, we got to wonder what's going on for them to be that way and have grace. It's like we want grace for us and justice for others, but just grace for everyone, especially these days.
I don't know whether the screen, I tried changing the screen and I think it's frozen. I'm hearing you fine. Are you still seeing the screen with your red dress on or the yellow?
Yeah, I see red.
Okay. So, I have a slight technical difficulty and I know how to do this. So I'm going to ask you to be the host of this, show for 1 minute because I'm going to have to reboot this screen and I'm going to attempt to come right back in. Can I ask you, Tammy, to take over the
Sure.
American Gumption morning show for 1 minute? Why don't you talk about whatever you feel like you want to tell the audience? How's that sound? Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So
all right, I'll be right back.
See you in a minute. So I'm just thinking a lot about just pausing and cultivating the pause. There's fight, flight, or freeze. Well, my friend Michael, he's a chef in New York, and he talks about the pause and cultivating the pause. We don't always have to fight back on everything, and we don't have to flight everything. I tend to flight, if something, my family knows I got to drive places because I can't be trapped somewhere. Someone's probably gonna hurt my feelings and I'm gonna leave. And if we could just cultivate the pause and not fight, flight, or freeze every situation. It's exhausting to just be in a situation where those are the only choices. And so let's bring back the pause for all of us, just before you respond to a text, a tweet, an email, just sit back and breathe and imagine your response coming to you. And sometimes I'll even text myself. I'll have some ragey come back and I'll send it to myself and I'm like, that sounds terrible. And so just really this week and the rest of your life, bring up this idea of cultivating the pause and just realizing you have so much energy And some things you do bring you more energy. So do more of that. Stop doing the energy stuff that drains you and makes you exhausted. There was this time my house flooded, and geez, I've had a lot of house floodings, but this time it was the whole basement, a couple of inches. And same time someone called and asked me for a massage, and I thought, how can I help you? My life is a mess. And I realized I couldn't do anything about my flood, but I could do that. And so just find the thing that's magic for you and do more of that. Welcome back. So happy you're here.
Thank you. And I'm not sure whether we continued the broadcast during that, me leaving, or whether you went blank or not, but I'm going to hope that that's what happened. So I'm learning this technology thing, and here's what happened. I didn't like freak out too much. I just calmly restarted my Google Chrome, and so anyway, we'll see. Hey, the next screen though, I put it on there because that's the pre in appreciation, putting the pre in appreciation. And this was your idea that I thought was brilliant at the time. And you've been doing it for the last 5 years, 4 years. You send out thank yous in advance. And I remember we went to a conference and you found the speakers who were going to speak, and you sent them a thank you for doing what they're going to do instead of sending it for what they did do. How'd that come about? And what was the response when you do that to people?
Okay, so if you think about anything you do or you have to do, the stress, the anxiety, the what the hell am I doing this for comes before. And so, but the thank you notes come after. And by the time the thank you notes are in the mail, if they do come, it's already on to a new project. But just imagine you're hosting a party and someone coming to the party sends you a thank you note the week before when you're knee deep in cleaning your house and making sure everything's perfect. I mean, it's just changing the timing of when you say thank you. And that's the magic of it. You know, I'll keep a $5 bill in my purse and give that to my server before. When I grow up, I want to have a $100 bill and give them that before they serve me. Not for any expectation. It just acts as a reset button so that they can clear the slate of the past bad experiences. And just, I did a TEDx talk on that, and it's pretty good. You got to check it out.
All right. Yeah, we should put a link to that. Hey, but you not only did you do that, you've taken it to the next level in that you've let's see here. There we go. You have created a kindness store, and you have cards that people can get, and you've kind of figured out what it is. How do you do this pre-kindness thing? Talk about that. Tell them about your store.
Okay, so when I started, I just had recipe cards that I was sending out to people, and that taught me just be willing to suck long enough to figure it out. And now I have a whole store online. I design new cards every month. And what I just want to teach people is to integrate appreciation into your life. It's no longer okay for it to be an afterthought, especially in business. If you're operating with thank you as an afterthought, it's too late. It needs to be just totally integrated and, authentic, automated appreciation. That's our goal. And we're working on a project. I mean, it's basically appreciation for like Netflix, where it's a monthly thing where you can sign up. And if we spent as much time appreciating people as we do mindless watching people live their lives, can you imagine how cool the world would be? So I'm just so grateful that it's all just kind of fallen into place just by doing what I love, which is literally handwriting cards and telling people thank you. So
I have a whole stack of cards that you've sent me, and I always felt special when I got one. So thank you so much for that pre-kindness that you've shared with me as we've done our journey together. Hey, the last slide I want to show from your website is the 30-day kindness challenge. If people click on that link, what do they get?
So they will, there's this idea that 30 days could change your life if you just did one kindness a day for 30 days. So if they click on that, they'll get a PDF file they can print off, or I can mail it to them. because mail is so fun. And just start integrating kindness too, and thinking outside the box, talking about it, sharing it. There's this belief that people talk about, I think it was in the Bible, which I want to disagree with, that don't share the good you do. And that is what is ruining America or the world more than anything, because good is happening and no one's talking about it. And then crap is happening and it's being shared and talked about. So I'm going to challenge you to do good, share it, because like Wayne Dyer said, kindness given, received, or witnessed raises the vibration of all involved and shared. And just by watching other people do this simple kindness, then they're like, oh, I could do that. You know, like I can't do some things people can do, but, you know, I could probably smile at someone, or, you know, when I'm on hold for 37 hours talking to insurance, I can say thank you to them first instead of chewing them out for waiting for 37 minutes. And then just pausing and thinking, this is probably hard for them too.
So I want to, as we're going to get close to wrapping up here, I want to encourage everyone to go to yes2kindness.com and to take the 30-day challenge, to look at Tammy's store. If that's something that, you know, if these cards that she's created would be helpful for you, then by all means check them out and purchase 100 of them or 1,000 of them, whatever. And then most importantly, if you are a veteran and you have suicide thoughts, reach out directly to Tammy at yes2kindness.com, or reach out to any of the resources. We are getting better at recognizing that we ask our soldiers to go to war, but we don't really give them the resources to come home. So there is a greater awareness, and that fortunately is changing, but there's that moment in time when somebody needs help. So I'm going to guess that if there's ever if there's a soldier out there who needs help, they should reach out to you. Is that true?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
You're never alone as you feel.
Yeah. So, well, good. So, what else would you like to share? Do you have anything that's on your mind that you feel like you need to reveal? Maybe something about your life or an adventure that you and I have enjoyed over the last few years?
I guess just whenever I think of you, I think of stairs, you know, just one step at a time. Just keep going up. And sometimes you fall down the stairs, but just get back up. And I heard recently, failure is the fertilizer you're going to need. So fail often and fail fast. And it's not that big of a deal. Failing is so much easier than doing nothing. So find something, be brave enough to fail forward. And even if you get haters, if you imagine like you had a garden out front and someone crapped in it, that's just fertilizer. Just look at it like that. There's nothing that's that big a deal, but we have the power to make it such a big deal, or we can just let it go. So nothing's that big of a deal, really.
All right. Well, Tammy, will you, as you continue your journey and as the American Gumption Morning Show continues its journey, I would like to invite you to come back and visit us again in the future and update us on your story and what's happening, because it sounds like there's going to be a lot more happening coming up. So I would invite you to come back and join us again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all you do.
All righty. Thank you. All right. So that's going to wrap up today's show, folks. We're at the final minute. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the closing song and say goodbye. Tomorrow we have Bettina Carey coming on, and we're going to have a great conversation. So I hope you will join us tomorrow. All right, everybody, have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.